10 seconds. Okay. And welcome to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live exclusively on the new visual. Exclusively. There I go again, Alex. I mean, exclusively. Yeah, audio wise, yeah, exclusively on the New Visions Radio Network. But now we simulcast live stream on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/user /nocturnal frequency one. And I'm screwing that up. I don't know why we say it so many times. But anyways, how's it going,
Pretty
Alex?
good.
Like, what's new? What's
Nothing.
new? Of course.
Can't break tradition, man. Can't break tradition.
In with the collage.
Yeah, that's
man.
it.
We got to have Alex Nothing Part 2.
That's right.
Yeah. So last night we were out. We shot more of the Nocturnal Night Shots 3. Episode 3 is coming up very soon.
Yep.
And so what do you think? What do you think of the location again last night?
Well, I had a different atmosphere than the first time we went there a week before. And even Gord, agreed with me. The first time we went there,
but he'll agree with you on anything. I mean, come on, seriously, it's Gord here.
Come on, he did. Even he said, it's a different feeling, different vibe from the week before. The first week we went there was kind of a serene sort of environment. All of us sort of felt at peace, sort of at calm. But then last night when we went there, it had shifted, almost like I know I used the terminology yesterday. It almost felt like death. It wasn't literally death, but it being fall and all the leaves falling and everything like that. It also gave that sort of vibe of sterility, if lack of a better term, I guess. So it was one of those scenarios, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I really like that site. It's just it'll be interesting if one day we can go there and actually do some more different type of work.
Well, I think we can. It's really up to us if we want to do that, right?
We should definitely do it before the snow comes.
What kind of different work are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking? What do you have in mind?
Ouija board comes to mind.
Of course.
Of course.
Okay, but why a Ouija board? I mean, how different is a Ouija board in comparison to doing some EVP work?
It's more direct.
Is it really?
Yeah.
How is it more direct?
Well, if you get a hold of somebody,
explain to me.
If you get a hold of somebody, you're going to get answers to the questions you're asking right away. Whereas there's no guarantee you'll get anything on tape or on audio, rather.
Okay.
Right. So that's why I wanted to try that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's another tool, if you will, another way of possibly communicating with whatever. Like a lot of things that many people do when they use when they paranormal investigate, if you will, the different tools that a lot of people employ. I mean, yeah, and we won't get into this debate again. We've had this debate a million times, and I mean, there are people that are against it, and there are people that no, bring it out. Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, what do you think that is? Without debate, obviously. Why do you think that is? Why do you think some people are opposed to it, where others, no problem?
Well, it's a misconception that the Ouija board itself, in and of itself, is evil, and I keep telling people that this is a bunch of hogwash. Primarily, it's a tool, as you stated. And I've used the analogy of whenever a Ouija board comes out of an assembly line, quote unquote, there isn't some evil magician at the end of it cursing the damn thing every night. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's a tool like anything else. It's the user's intent that counts. Anything can be used for good or evil. A hammer could be used to build somebody a house, or it could be used to bludgeon someone to death. Is the hammer evil? No, it's the person. It's the same thing with the Ouija board. It's your intent and what you want to do with it that counts.
Yeah. And speaking of magicians, this past week, the famous magician himself, James Randi, passed away.
I know. I've seen that. Yeah.
What was it? 90? What was he?
He was in his 90s, 96 maybe. I think it was.
I don't know if he was that old. I think it was 90, 91, 92, somewhere around there. I don't know. Crazy age. And I'm talking about controversial characters. I mean, there's a guy that you either liked him or you didn't, right? I mean, if you're in the paranormal, if you will, there are people that did like him, and then there are people, nah, he doesn't know what he's talking about, sort of thing. Especially with his $1 million
Yeah. I
challenge,
wonder what's going to happen to that
you
now.
know. Well, I think isn't it it's not actually run by James Randi. It's run by he's got some sort of committee or something that I believe that oversees that. I don't think he is in direct. I don't think he oversees it directly. I don't know. I could be
Yeah.
wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure he's got some sort of committee that looks into that. What happens now after his death? I don't know. Maybe they totally fold it. I don't even know if it's still going or not. I really don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but
You know?
it'd be interesting to see if it is or if it was still going up until now. What will happen to it after?
Yeah, I mean, it was going for a long time, and I know some prominent people who actually, uh, you know, took the challenge, and one person in particular who's no longer with us, and our guest coming on tonight might even know who this person is. Lou Gentile.
Oh, okay.
Gentili, who was a broadcaster, and he had basically a show on the paranormal.
Hmm.
And I remember he'd always talk about, EVPs, and collecting them and all that kind of stuff. And he was going to bring a few that he had collected, or he challenged James Randi and told him that he could produce an EVP at any given time.
Well, I'd like to know that secret.
And apparently he did, and it was presented to the committee, I guess, for reveal. And of course, they never answered him back. So I don't know whatever happened to that, obviously, and unfortunately Lou passed away. But I really don't know what happened in the end, other than I know there was no reply back to the challenge, if you will. But anyways, I don't want to take too much time here. Tonight we've got somebody returning, a guest returning. I mean, it's been a while, but for those of you who know the paranormal podcasting world out there, and one of the original, I mean, it was one of the shows that got me into the paranormal. I was already into it, but I mean, one that really got me into it, more passionate about it, was Ghostly Talk. And the host, one of the hosts, Scott L, is going to be with us tonight. So we're going to bring him in after our short break here. Again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Dark Discussions. Facebook, just simply type in Nocturnal Frequency Radio, and you'll find our page there in the search box. Instagram is Nocturnal Frequency Radio. And, I want to say BVM, but that's a lost cause.
Ancient.
And of
Yeah.
course, tell everyone about the swag.
Yes, we do have a merch store where you can actually buy t-shirt, hoodies, zip-up hoodies, pullover hoodies. We also have, I believe, a neck gaiter, and what else did we... we got two different type of t-shirts, one with just the logo, and then one with the logo and the David Frank quote in the back. You can go to teespring.com. Let me load that up now because I don't know the exact... I think it's teespring.com/stores/nocturnal_frequency, I believe, is the URL.
Yeah,
It is. It is.
And what do you think? Do you think anyone ever gets offended by the saying on the back of the shirts?
I don't know.
I often wonder about that when I wear my shirt.
Yeah, it's...
Does anyone... I mean, how do they take it? You kind of wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we're not going to take any more time here. We're just going to go for a break. When we come back, we're going to have Scott L joining us. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live on the New Visions Radio Network. And of course, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, thanks for joining us there as well. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio.
It hides nestled among the century-old weeping willows, watching in its lonely state, waiting to share its story. The tragedy soaked within its hollow walls. Before this ancient and abandoned farmhouse is lost forever. Listen carefully as you walk down that old dark road to find what secrets it harbours.
You are listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio, hosted by Steve and his satanic assistant, Alex Rondini, both of whom can't go into churches without vomiting.
Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens due to the crisis that is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments. At this hour, we repeat, these are the facts as we know them. There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. The murders are taking place in villages and cities and rural homes and suburbs with no apparent pattern nor reason for the slayings. It seems to be a sudden general explosion of mass homicide.
The devil showed him all the kingdoms of the world and said, "All this I
Nocturnal Frequency Radio live exclusively on the New Visions Radio Network. I'm so used to saying that. No, we're on YouTube too. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for joining us. And tonight, I'm pretty excited to have Scott L back on. Scott, thanks for joining us, man.
Hi guys, it's good to be back again. Alex and Steve, it's really great to talk to you guys.
Good to have
Thanks
you.
for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I've definitely kept up to date with Ghostly Talk. Like I said, I've been an avid listener of your show since, well, what you started, 2002, something like that.
Yeah, January, February of 2002 is when we started our first show.
And I'm sure I was like the long list of avid listeners when you guys hung it up there, but thankfully you brought it back, and it's good that to hear that back on the airways. Anyways, it's always a pleasure to listen to the show.
Thank you.
Because people, I guess, listen to our show because I know there's been a lot of guests that I've had on here, that we've had on here, that I know for a fact that, oh man, I remember listening to him on Ghostly Talk. And I don't know, I could probably name a crap load, but if it wasn't for your show, I probably wouldn't have known about half of these people. But so when you brought it back, and now in pretty much podcast form, what can people expect if they haven't even sort of tuned back in since you've come back? I mean, it's been a couple of years. How many years now?
Actually, it's been about 4 years now.
4 years, yeah.
Doing it 2016. We fired it back up in 2016. Yeah. Go ahead.
So how different? Obviously, Doug not being around as one of the hosts, but I mean, besides that, what's different about Ghostly Talk from the original sort of?
Well, I can say when we first started doing it again, right?
Yeah.
We came into it kind of guns a-blazing. Going, all right, we're doing this unfiltered completely. We always kept things pretty loose, even in the old days, as far as just the content and whatnot. But we always kept it clean, though, right? It was always we wanted it to be a family show. And I know when we came back in 2016, the first handful of shows were a damn train wreck. not because we couldn't do the shows. It's because we were drinking during the show, and we're getting loaded and goofing around, basically having like a mini party. Yeah, there you go. That's beautiful, man. We're basically having mini parties for on some of those first shows we did when we came back in 2016. And we were kind of letting them fly left and right. We weren't worried about the language too much. And that was fun for maybe a month or two, honestly. Maybe a little longer. And then Amber and I decided, this. Let's pull it back a little bit here. Put our arms around this thing and do a proper show again, right?
Yeah.
So really now, of course, we're missing. Bonnie comes around here and there, but Bonnie's really busy with her work schedule too, and she kind of lives far away now from us. And of course, Doug, we talked about it off the air for a minute, and I'll say it on the air too. I mean, when Doug was part of the conversations when this thing was brought up and put back on the table again. And like I said, it was one of those things where I'm like, well, think it over and let me know. And we did sit down and talk about it again. He's like, I love the show and I love doing it, but I just don't see it in my future right now, and that's perfectly cool. That's just the way it was. But he's still a part of the show. He always will be part of the show. As I said, he's an advisor to me still. He's been a friend of mine for 20 years now. And, not only with the show, but even in life and professional stuff too. It's a dear friend. So, we are down Doug, but it's me and Amber doing it now, who's my significant other also. She's very good at what she does also. And she's very good on the show. She was working with us even back in the old days too. So
well, she's written a book or two as well, hasn't she?
Got 3 books out. 4th book right now too. Yeah, she's an author. But yeah, that's where the show's at now. We kind of brought it back to what it was, before, with a little bit. It's a little more loose though. It is a little more loose, and it can be now because when we were doing the show originally, we did get, we took a lot of responsibility on with that thing. I don't think it ever really got out of control, like out of our control, but it was a very, very, it was a lot of work for someone.
Oh yeah.
Some people can do that. I mean, some people, like, I remember in those days, just going, okay, I spent all these hours a week preparing for 3 hours, and I put 20 hours in to prepare for it, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I would think about people who do this like every day, shows like this every day, and it just would blow my mind. I'm exhausted by doing 3 hours a week live.
Yeah.
And we were also doing the live show, and we had a lot of affiliates. A lot of people put the show out for us too, so that could get intense at times. Just for a couple of people that started doing something in a basement, and it kind of grew into this. It grew into this really beautiful, cool thing. But now the way they show it, and it's the same feel, but it's way more loose and relaxed now for me. That was the thing when I came back to it. My thing was, all right, guys, if we're gonna do this, I'll do it, but I'm not killing myself. I just don't. I'm older now, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting tired. And I still stay very active with a lot of things. So it's the way we do the show now. It's nice for me. A nice sweet spot. We do it when we want to do it. We don't really have any set schedule. We put out regular content, right? But we're not locked into anything. And I guess that's my problem with any hobby I have. And the reason I think I've stopped doing stuff in the past was like, well, it's not fun anymore. This work to me. This isn't fun. This is supposed to be a fun thing we're doing. So, and that's why Ghostly Talk stopped. We stopped in 2008, 2000, I forgot now. But when we stopped doing the show back then, it just wasn't fun anymore. It was brutal. It was, some of those weeks were really difficult to get through those shows. It was really hard on me and Doug, because some of the people, I'll be totally blunt, some of the people we had on in those last few months of the show back then, I just wanted to strangle a few of these people because they were just so ridiculously mean. Not on the air.
No.
I mean, when you're getting yelled at by some, and this is the inner workings of this stuff, people. When you're getting yelled at when you're on a break by the guest because you're not mentioning their book enough or you're not pushing their website enough. I come to the end of that thing, and I there was a few times we were done. Doug and I would go outside to have a smoke or something after the show, and I'm like, I need a shower now, dude. I feel dirty. Like I feel like I just poured out, man. So. There's none of that now. That's just I have no tolerance for any of that stuff. And I'm really happy. The vast majority of people, 99% of the people we've talked to all these years, they've all been beautiful, wonderful people. I understand people want to sell books too, right? And I'm here to help. I'll do whatever I can with my arena. But I love, like I said, we've discussed this off the air. It's a conversation. I like talking with people. I like having conversations about interesting, cool stuff. And I might not agree with them either.
I mean, that goes cool. That's par for the course, right? I mean, we don't agree with a lot of people that come on our show. But I totally understand the whole bit now being yelled at. We've been yelled at.
Correction, I've been yelled at.
You've been yelled at a few times. And it just, you sit there and go, wow, we started to do this because we wanted to have fun. We were having fun. It was something that we were interested in, and there's always those folks out there and those people that guests, if you will, that will blow that out of proportion, and it's really sad.
I'm not griping about it in any way whatsoever, but I just start driving the point home that when it wasn't fun anymore, we stopped doing it, right?
Yeah,
and I don't know. I mean, we're having fun with this now still. My thing's always a grind for me, no matter what it is. But my thing is the output. What the finished product that's done. That's what I work for, is to see that thing done right. From doing a podcast of sorts from reaching out to someone and saying, hey, we like your book, or we're interested in this topic that you're into. Would you want to come talk to us? All the way to them coming on the show, all the way to me doing post-production on the show, and then ultimately putting it out there for consumption. Right.
Yeah.
I that process can be tedious at times, but the output, the work that you see, that's what I love. And I've always loved that about doing Ghostly Talk, was always the work that at the end of it. Right. And, the thing is, especially now, from a technical standpoint, I do less to the show to produce it now. I mean, we have a lot better equipment than we did back in the day. I mean, we really have a lot better microphones and all that cool stuff. But as far as production's concerned, I don't do much at all. I mean, I tell everybody that's a part of our show, like, we're not editing this thing unless something really needs to be edited. Like, if someone wants it to be edited, I'm happy to do it. But generally, I just keep it. It's what you hear is what we talked about, right? Mistakes and all. So
but that's what I loved about it. I mean, especially in the beginning, like and now, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I used to love it when you guys would, you'd go out to, some place and ghost hunt or whatever else, and just come back and sit around a table, however, and talk about the night before and what happened.
The original idea, what Ghostly Talk was supposed to be about, was, and the night that Doug came to me, that was literally like late 2001, right?
Yeah.
It was November. Doug, we were talking in a parking lot of a bar we were at. We all met up at to talk about some stuff, paranormal stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we were out in the parking lot talking, and Doug said, I have this idea. I wanted, him and I discovered very quickly as soon as we met that we really had the gift of gab together.
Okay.
We just have that energy. We've always had that energy between the two of us where we just like to talk, and we can riff. We can riff a conversation. I call it riffing, it's got a certain, tempo to it. It's got rhythm, especially when you're when you're in the moment, like, okay, we're recording this, when you're in the moment of, it's a performance of sorts. It is a performance, right? And we just both realized we really worked well together on that. And that's when Doug said to me that one night, like, hey, man, I have this idea. I'd like to do a radio show, but not on the radio, on the internet, right? On the internet. And we can just talk about our adventures. And it'll be like a paranormal type thing, but we can talk about ghost hunting and going out to these places and weird stuff happens. And I'm like, I'm all in, dude. I'm totally all in. This sounds great. I'd love to do this. And that was, but we talk about podcasting and stuff nowadays. There was nothing out there.
No, that's what I mean. Well, because I remember, discovering you guys, and it was, I was looking for anything I could listen to on the paranormal. I remember I was working nights, and I go, look, I got to find some stuff I can load up onto my my MP3 player, whatever, right? Back then.
That shows your age, Steve.
Well, hey. And then, all of a sudden, Ghostly Talk, what's that? And I remember I went to your site. Oh, check it out, man. They got archives. I'm gonna grab some of the archives and listen to it. Yeah. And I remember, from the very first, like, I think when I first started listening to you guys, I think it was about 2004, roughly. So I had a lot of catching up to do, a couple of years worth, but it was amazing. Like I said, and when I finally got caught up and, okay, present, waiting for them to produce another show. Oh, great. Sunday night. And, unfortunately I could never listen to it live, sort of thing. But I mean, I was always able to get the podcast, and it was great. I used to love it. It was great.
Yeah. The Sunday nights became that night. It was great. And some of the people back in those days, the vision that Doug had and what I ultimately had also was, I want to see 1 million of these type of shows.
Yeah.
That are on the internet, that are doing this on their own for free, on their own dime and their own time, DIY, right?
Yeah.
And it was Doug and I both grew up listening to punk rock, so that we both came from that mentality, that do-it-yourself type thing, that punk rock attitude. And that's really, there still is a lot of punk rock and Ghostly Talk when it comes to that, the attitude and the way we deliver the show and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was the vision. Like, let's see like a million of these shows, and it happened. And I'm really, and I know some people could be looking at it like, oh yeah, it's, a bunch of fake, whatever. No, it's cool. And yeah, I think some people got into it for reasons that I don't agree with. I'm not saying they're the wrong reasons. They're reasons that I don't agree with. Right?
Yeah.
Number one with the show is it's always going to be free for people, no matter what. There's no subscriptions. There's no Patreon or whatever you have now. There's nothing like that. Because I'm just too lazy to do that shit. I'm sorry. I'm just too lazy.
I hear you, man. I'm the same way.
I'm too lazy, So just give it away. I know some people, that's where I'm saying, like, and I try to impress this upon people as much as possible now. It looks good on paper to try to turn your hobby into a job, right? But then it becomes a job, like I already said. And some people, that's what they want to do. I mean, if that's your thing, that's great. It don't work for me though. If I had to turn Ghostly Talk into a job, I wouldn't last probably a couple of years, and I'd be like, I can't. No, I don't want to do this. This isn't fun. So
imagine doing it every night.
Yeah, it would just drive me nuts. I would go insane. I have to have some balance in my life,
Yeah.
But it's a free show. It's always going to be free. That's the number one rule. Even when we dissolved the show, Doug and I sat down and basically put a bunch of money together in an account and said, okay, this money will be used to pay for the server.
Yeah.
And if you noticed, when the show did dissolve, from being a live show, we basically rebranded the site, called it the Ghostly Talk Archives.
Yeah.
Because of the idea that Doug and I, that we pledged this to each other, was no matter what, whether this show ever comes back again or whatever happens in the future, those archives will be up there for people to listen to the show.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Right?
Yeah.
It was great to still get email from people all those years that we were not doing anything, going, just discovered your show. I'm really bummed that you guys aren't doing the show anymore, but I'm downloading all these archives and I love you. I love listening to the show, it's always great to hear that.
It's awesome to hear that. Yeah.
So that's the deal. That's to me at least. And I don't know everything either, but that's just how I feel about it. That's how Doug feels about it. That's how Amber feels about it. That's how Bonnie feels about it. That was our attitude. It still is our attitude towards this thing. Is it's free. Download it, listen to it. No commercials, no nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
No
strings attached.
And I mean that, and it works. I mean, you guys are all on the same page, and it works, and that's the main thing. I mean, anything that we play here, like commercial wise, is basically just stuff that for friends, right? Like, I mean, commercial for a friend's show or whatever else. It's not anything that we don't get paid for anything for this. This is much like you. It's our own dime. We produce our own stuff here. Everything. It's our own dime. Yeah. So if you guys want to donate, go ahead. No, I'm just kidding. But
you can buy the merch.
Well, that's what we did back in the day. Any of the commercials we used to air on the old version of the show, they were all commercials given to us by friends of ours or ones we made for them. Hey, we like what you guys do. You're cool. We're cool with you. We're going to make you a commercial because we support what you guys do, right? Yeah. And then not only that, but the music we used to play, it's a lot different now with podcasts. You can't just play music,
Exactly, yeah.
But back in those days, it was all independent bands. They were bands that I knew. A lot of bands that were friends of mine from other bands that I played with and stuff. And excuse me, that or a lot of bands would, after a couple of years, our PO box was always getting filled up with CDs and stuff, which was great because it was bands that were sending us their music to play on the show.
Speaking of that, don't mean to cut you off, but speaking of that, and clarify to me this, I can't remember this, but I'm almost certain it was Ghostly Talk that I remember hearing November's Doom for the very first time.
Oh, fantastic band. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. What's
And
that?
and you know what? And I remember getting I absolutely love November's Doom to the point where I got to be we got to be really good friends with Vito, who is the guitarist in the band, and
Yeah.
later
Yeah.
Paul, the vocalist. And yeah, it's funny how this stuff works out. You know, like it's just amazing
Paul's
how
a singer. Paul's a singer of that band, right?
yes,
I
Paul
forget
Kerr,
names. Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah. Go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
You know, amazing band, great band, and we finally got to see them
Yeah.
live. They finally
Yep.
made their way up here to do a tribute show,
Yeah.
and it was really good to see that live. But it
They
is,
they I met those guys in Chicago about 12 years ago.
oh yeah,
Me and Amber went down there to see we went down there we went there actually through no, we just came there for a concert, I think. I don't I think it was we went there for a concert. God, it was Voivod and Creator, like these old thrash bands, you know.
oh yeah,
Voivod's a Canadian band, actually. I'm sure you guys
yeah,
have heard of Voivod.
oh yeah,
Legends. Yeah, brilliant. I got to meet them that day, which I just about flipped my shit because Blackie, the bass player of Voivod, is one of the reasons I play bass guitar now. I worship that dude. So I got to meet him that day and it flipped me out. But I met that night of the show, the guys from November's Doom were hanging out.
yeah,
And my buddy, a friend of mine, Chris, a really good friend of mine who lives in Chicago, he knows everybody in the music scene there.
mhm,
And so he's like, "Hey, that's the guys from November's Doom." I'm like, "Oh, I love those guys," you know. And he's like, "Let's go talk to him." So I walked up and I talked to Paul, and I said that to him, like, I love your band. Twilight Innocence makes me cry whenever I hear it. That song
yeah,
just makes me just bawl my eyes out, you know. And it's about that song's about his kid, you know. It's about
yeah.
his kid when his kid was born. That's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. As far as like that
Oh,
genre of music, that doom metal stuff like that. Um, those guys just kill it, and they're
oh,
still killing. They're still a
they're
wicked
still
band. I
killing.
love them.
Yeah,
Great.
they're working on a new album. In fact, again.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
I can't wait. It just seems like yesterday they
Hmm.
released the last album.
yeah.
But it's good to see that they're very active and always good to see new stuff from them.
Passionate
Yeah,
dude, into what they do. I love their music. Yeah,
yeah,
brilliant guys.
it's great stuff, man. So many fond memories from discovering them and listening to them for the first time, the first few albums. You know, I've always meant to ask you before, like, asked you, Ghostly Talk, how did that actually come into being? Like I know you're talking that you and Doug got together, whatever. But I mean, before, like, how well did you know Doug before this?
I had known Doug for about 3 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
we met on a Yahoo chat board.
Well, I
Oh,
remember those.
Paranormal,
yeah,
paranormal.
yeah,
Because like a lot of people, I think a lot of us have had a certain degree a lifelong interest in the paranormal, whatever shade of color it is, right?
mhm,
Whether it's UFOs or whatever, anything weird, right?
yeah.
I know myself, yeah, growing up, I was that kid that was just getting one ghost story book after another from the library and just
Yeah.
digesting it. And I've talked about it on the show. When the book that lit the spark was Haunted Houses by Larry Kettlecamp, which is just
Okay.
this little book. Larry Kettlecamp wrote books on cooking and woodworking, but he wrote a book on the paranormal called Haunted Houses, which was just a insane cool read for a young kid because it was a short and it had some really super interesting stories, and it had some of the the brown lady picture, of course, one of the
Yeah.
most famous spirit photos ever taken. uh but then towards the end, it got into some really cool ideas that Larry Kettlecamp had on what ghosts may be,
Yeah.
right? So but it was very well written for a young person to try to digest these ideas and try to just try to understand it the best you can, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember having that book, especially with my grandparents in Tennessee. I would go down there to visit them, and I'd have that book with me all the time. And I remember talking with my grandma with that book in my hand about stuff. My grandma was very progressive, very cool, and you could talk to her about neat stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I know that was one of the things that lit the spark, right? For me was just in a lifelong interest, like I said.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as we all know, you grow and you have to carve forge your life and carve things out for yourself, get a career, whatever it may be. Do your thing, get your act together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes while it's an interest and I would read books, it was still something I had it put to the side. And I was just getting out of college at that time in 2001. I was finishing up college and I'm like, wow, well, this has like been a big part. School's been this huge part of my life for this long. So, and now I have this big empty space.
Yeah.
I got to find something to do. And it just so happens a lady I worked with sent me just on the company email, of course. She sent me an email with just a zip file filled with all these like spirit photos, like just ghost photos.
Okay.
And I started flipping through those. It was like 2001.
Yeah.
I started flipping through those, and I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. There it is. There it is, right there. That's what I need to start doing again. Is start studying this stuff. Start getting into this.
Yeah.
Getting involved with something. There's got to be something we can do here. And I thought, I knew that people had done paranormal research. But I'm like, well, there's got to be other people here in Michigan that are into this stuff.
Yeah.
And, the idea, even that was not 20 years ago, but the idea really of going to a cemetery and walking around with a camera in your hand, it was still a little weird. It was weird.
Yeah.
So that led me to this Yahoo chat board, and that's where I met a bunch of people on there. They were all from around the area. They were very close, actually, and that's how I met Doug in the parking lot of a mobile station here, Michigan. And like I said, the minute we met, we clicked. We immediately clicked. And we both just had a lot of fire in us for this thing. And that's how this whole thing came together. But we only really knew each other for a few months. But we got close quick. He's just one of those people. He's a really warm person. You've met Doug. He's a beautiful guy. So we became quick friends very quick. We became friends very quick, and he thought enough of me to want to bring me on to do that thing with him with Ghostly Talk, because it was his idea. I'll never. He always gets that from me. He'll always be bashful or whatever. I mean, no, this was your thing. This was your thing, and you brought me on.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad he did. It changed my life for the better. It really did. Ghostly Talk is, even now, while it's a bit more pulled back, there's a lot of amazing things that came from doing this show. A lot of relationships I have, my wife, relationships I have are because of Ghostly Talk. People I met along that way. So I can't. But that's how the thing came about. Was just that we only knew each other for a few months.
Wow, and it's amazing because
version of that question or that answer. Sorry.
No, that's cool. Well, and you can tell. I mean, well, you can't tell that you guys had just met when the show just started, but you can tell how quickly you guys mixed. I mean, like you said, it was like bang, instant. And you guys bounce off each other it brilliantly. It was great, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the show is the conversations that you guys would have and how fluent they were, and how warming and oh man, this is cool. I want to do this. This is, hey, I want to know more about this stuff, man. And you guys were like, okay. You think of any topic that you guys talked about, and it's like, oh shit, man, I've never heard of that before. What the hell, man? Where do they find this stuff from?
Yeah.
And that was the thing. There were so many topics that, what? I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
I
think too, we realized, it was fun talking about ghosts for a long while, right?
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah.
But we're like, okay, and this is going to come off the wrong way probably, and I'm sorry to anybody who's offended by this, but we could only interview so many ghost hunting groups. It was just getting to be basically the same story over and over again. And I won't lie, I was like, okay, this is getting a bit boring now. We need to diversify here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that opened us up to a whole world of things. Like, I'm not just interested in ghosts. I mean, I'm interested in UFOs and cryptids. The pyramids of Giza it's a huge. I still study that stuff to this day. So, we really just opened things up. I mean, we talked about the Kennedy assassination in one show, or we talked to somebody about the Kennedy spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. We want to talk about it. If it's weird, let's get into this stuff, right? And that made things. And we always fall back on talking about ghosts. It's great. I love talking about it. We still do it to this day. That's what the show's about, basically, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other stuff you could talk about. And we did, and we still do. Because it needs to be talked about, I think. A lot of this.
Talking about weird, we'll get into it after the break here. But you have a really weird story you want to talk about.
Oh God! Yeah.
So hold until we come back from break. But so that's awesome. And like I said, I think the one thing that was really cool, and I want to get your take on it, obviously, because I'm not sure if I ever asked you guys this, but what was it like to be on Coast to Coast?
That was really cool. I'll tell you right now, a lot of people like to throw shade on George Norrie.
Yeah.
And they still do, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you, that guy is an absolute brilliant broadcaster and delivery man. Watching him work, watching a real professional work, because we're just these idiots in a basement. We don't know what we're doing. We're just trying to figure this stuff out. And watch George Norrie. That was when the only reason we got on there was because he mentioned on a show I was listening to a week or so before that he was originally from Detroit. And, he said, he's like, I'm coming back home to Detroit, and I'm going to be doing the show from the OnStar building at the Ren Center in Detroit, which is, it's downtown. It's the biggest building in Detroit, basically. So I'm like, well, you're not coming in our backyard, dude. Not getting a piece of us. So I went after him, and I worked my way through the chain, and I found his producer and said, come on, we're right here. Have us on. Well, what do you guys want to talk about? I go, we got tons of EVPs we can talk about, but we can talk about our podcast a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
Our show, our radio, whatever the hell it was back then. And somehow they let us on. Me and Doug, when they said, yeah, you guys are confirmed, I looked at Doug and no, this isn't happening right now. We're going to be on Coast to Coast AM. The show, obviously, it's a late night show, so we made a whole night of it. We went down to Greektown in Detroit here. It's all Greek stuff, and had a nice dinner. And then we went to the casino for a little while, and I watched Doug gamble himself half to death. And then, about 1:30 in the morning, we drove over to the OnStar building, and they let us. They had us all set up to get in the gate and stuff like that. And they just brought us up there, and there we are. We walk in the room, and there's George Norrie saying, "Hey guys, really super nicest guy in the world."
Yeah,
just jumped right up, like, "Oh, ghostly talk. What's going on, guys? How are you?" Super cool. And we just kind of sat there white faced for the next 3 hours, and we talked about our thing. We just talked about what we did. It was as simple as that, right? It was a great experience. We actually had to have a friend of ours who's an IT guy like we are. So we knew the server was going to get hammered.
Yeah.
Because Coast to Coast AM is famous for destroying people's websites. That was one of the funny jokes back in the day. Was they would flatten a website out because it's what is it, 24 million listeners a night at the time, right?
Something like that, yeah.
So I remember that was one of the best parts of that discussion we had because we knew it was coming, and we had our buddy John, one of our unsung heroes of the show, who's always kind of worked in the background with us on technical things.
Yeah.
We had him actually monitoring the server, making adjustments on the server to keep it from blowing up, right? because we had a lot of headroom to work with back. There was all of our own equipment we were using back then for that stuff. So, and yeah, I remember George Norrie looked at us. He's like, "Are you guys ready?" Like, "Oh, here we go." And he's like, "So what's your website?" And we're like, ghostlytalk.com. And I remember we left there and we ended up we went to a Coney Island to have some coffee and just chat for a while. Cause you leave something like that, you're going to be so tuned up. You're not going to bed anytime soon. So it's like 5:00 in the morning and we're still up. Like, I'm not going to bed. Are you going to bed? No, I'm not going to bed either. So we ended up at a Coney Island and just sat there and talked about the experience. And then meanwhile, John was calling us going, "Yep. Okay. Yeah. The server got a little slowed down about 3:00 in the morning, but it's good. We were able to keep it up, and I was making adjustments as we went along, so we were good. We made it. We didn't go down, thank goodness. But we had a really good guy helping us out with that. But that was just, I mean, all I could say about it really was, yeah, was an amazing experience. The producers were amazing to us, and that did a lot of great stuff for our show too. It opened us up to a whole new audience. It didn't make us famous. Some people think when you go on Coast to Coast, you're going to be famous. That's not true. That just isn't true. But it did open us up to a whole new audience, and it did break us to a certain degree where, things got a lot busier. We were very busy keeping up with the email and stuff like that for a while there. It was great. Wouldn't take it back for the world. It was an amazing experience. I was so happy we got to do that.
Alex wants to know what a Coney Island is.
Oh, Coney Island?
See, apparently Steve's a psychic. He can read my mind.
No, I know. I've been in Coney Island a few times.
Detroit thing, basically. Yeah. A lot of them are run by Greeks. A lot of Greek people. A lot of Greek people live in the Detroit area. Yeah. That's why I mentioned Greektown already. We have a whole area in Detroit called Greektown. But it's just basically a restaurant at Coney Island. It's a greasy spoon, more or less. Yeah. But a lot of them slanted more towards Greek food. So a lot of Euro stuff like that, Greek food. But really,
all sorts of crap there, man.
They come in all different flavors,
Yeah.
But generally you can get breakfast all day long, and that's why I go to a Coney Island. I get my Euro and eggs. It's my favorite thing in the world is Euro and eggs. But that's really what a Coney Island is. It's just a restaurant we have, and we call it a Coney Island. I don't know why we call it a Coney Island either.
I think the one I went to was in not far from Sterling. It was in Sterling there. Sterling Heights. Yeah.
Not too far from Sterling Heights.
Yeah. I remember being up there. I think it was last year. I think it was last year. Yeah, last year. We were.
We have there's a bunch of small mom and pop ones, and then there's the big one called National Coney Island.
Yeah.
Which is the chain, right? Food's generally good. I mean, they're greasy spoons. That's what they are. If you're looking for high quality, healthy food, I wouldn't be going to a Coney Island.
No, it's when you want to fill your belly up, man. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it was last year because we saw a couple Tiger games there, back-to-back games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, went to Tiger games.
Also, I point out that they sell hot dogs are the big thing too. A Coney Island hot dog.
Yeah, the hot dog.
One of the main stages of Coney Island. So I have to mention that, or somebody listening to this, it's from Detroit's gonna be like, dude, you're stupid. You don't know what a Coney Island is. Yeah.
Now, is the archive up anywhere of that show?
I know it's still up on the Coast to Coast AM site.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Every once in a while I check it just to see if it's still there.
Still there?
I know it's still there. I don't know if we have it in our archives posted. That'd be something interesting to throw up, though. I'd have to look into the archives and see, because I know I have it in our archives, the actual backups I have of all the stuff from all the years.
Yeah,
we still have it. So it'd be something. You raise an interesting idea that maybe I should toss that up on the archives. That'd be fun to listen to again.
Yeah, it'd be fun to listen to that again. It's been a long time, but I'd love to listen to that as well.
Really great guy, though. I love that dude. He was so nice to us, so good to us.
Yeah, it was a good show. I remember it was awesome. We're going to take a short break here, but when we come back, Scott, you got a really interesting story you want to share there. So so don't go anywhere, folks. You're listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here, live on the New Visions Radio Network, and of course, a simulcasted live stream on our YouTube channel. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio. Okay, here we go. And welcome back to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live on New Visions Radio Network, and of course simulcasted on our YouTube channel. And tonight we have Scott L of Ghostly Talk. If you have not listened to Ghostly Talk, then I don't know where the hell you've been. No. What is it? Ghostlytalk.com?
Yep.
Ghostlytalk.com to listen, and the archives and everything are there as well, right?
Yeah, everything is there. We have, we have the actual archives from the old show, of course.
Yeah.
And they're all up there, as I said before, and I'll keep saying that. They're all up there for free to download. Do whatever you want to do with them. They're there for forever, basically, to download. I'll will this to somebody and say, this is your responsibility to deal with now when I'm dead someday. But that's our vision for that. And yeah, of course, the new shows are up too. And they're the same thing. They're free to listen to. And of course, now we're on all the podcast stuff now. We're on Spotify and all this stuff you do. So we're modern somewhat. We're trying to keep up somehow. But yeah, we're on all the podcast things too. But you can go directly to the site ghostlytalk.com and listen to everything there for free.
Awesome. Now you had a really interesting story that you shared with me earlier, man. It's pretty freaky, man.
Yeah. I want to try to start this properly. Okay. Well, I'll start it this way. I had a condo. I owned a condo for like 15 years. Which, I thought about this today also. This is going to be even more creepy with this thing. This condo I lived there from like 2003 to 2011, and I ended up buying a house. And of course, at that time, the economy was still kind of coming back as far as housing and stuff is concerned. And with the crash and stuff in 2008, I'm like, well, I don't want to try to sell this condo now, of course, because I'm underwater like everybody else is. Thankfully, not nearly as bad as most people were, but I still didn't want to. I'm like, well, I'm going to hold on to this thing. And, I was swinging 2 mortgages for a couple of years. Finally, I was able to, with the association, work with them where I could rent the place for a couple of years. Actually, I ran it for 5 years to some really good friends of mine who started a family there. And it was fantastic. Right. But they grew out of it like I did. And they said, well, we're going to buy a house now. And I'm like, well, you didn't sign a lease with me. Let's take care of you, So they moved on. I decided that was the time for me because, dual property ownership. I don't know how people do it, frankly. That's a lot of work. So
yeah,
I decided to put the place up for sale because things had kind of leveled out to the point where I could make some money on the place finally. So that was December. That was like October of 2018, where I and everybody listening right now, yeah, there is a point to this. We'll get there, I promise. So, yeah, December of 2018, I put the place up. Me and my realtor officially put the place up for sale. The first person that looked at it bought it. It was one person. That was the first and last person that came there. I ended up selling it to this guy. So I'll leave names out. But I remember going to the closing and meeting this gentleman. And this just kind of makes the point of where we're going with this thing, of course. But the funny thing that happened at this closing, and I'm sure we've all bought houses, we've been to closings before.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, guy paid cash for the place, right? And I said, okay, great. Well, yeah, I got my money. We signed the paperwork. So all we gotta do now is just call the electric company and cut over the electric, because the way the condo that association is gas and gas and water were included with the association dues. So it was just an electric bill you had to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, we got to cut this thing over. And this guy was like, well, I don't want to do that. No. And I'm like, well, you have to. It's your house now. You have to pay the electric bill. Well, I'm not moving in there for like another 3 weeks though. I'm like, well, I don't really care about that. That's not my problem anymore.
Yeah.
He just didn't understand. He didn't comprehend that, which I found really disturbing.
Yeah.
And it literally got to the point where I looked at my realtor. I'm like, Liddy, if you don't handle this, I'm going to smack the guy over the table because he's starting to piss me off now. Like, this is getting intense now. Why does
Yeah.
guy don't understand this point? It's beyond me. And she finally made him understand, like, no, you have to do this. You can't, no, he will not pay the bill for you. So fine. And that night, me and Amber went and had dinner. That was a celebration dinner, and I'm sitting there at dinner, and my realtor calls me and says, "Hey, so the guy who bought the place, there was a key missing to the furnace room for the furnaces were in the bottom part of the building. It's a glorified apartment, basically, right?
Yeah.
So, the keys we had changed the locks and all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'll handle it. I'll go over there tomorrow, even though I don't have to. I'll go over there tomorrow, meet up with one of the board members, and get a key for him. And we'll take care of it. No problem." So I went over there the next day, met up with the guy, and I met his little girl. And I said, "Yeah, here's the key for you. Nice doing business with you. Got to go." And he's like, "Well, could you show me how to install a furnace filter?" Which, yeah, you giggle. We giggle, right?
Yeah.
And we were all new homeowners at one time. We all have to learn things. I get that, but I was like, okay, that's a peculiar request, but I'll be happy to help you.
Yeah.
So I went down there and show you. Okay, arrow has to point this way. The whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So we walked upstairs and we talked for another minute, but then he just started hammering me with one question after another. Just just very, very obvious questions, just easy things. And I finally got to a point. I'm like, "Listen, dude, it's a pleasure doing business with you. It was nice to meet you, but you got a really nice phone in your hand right there that I know has YouTube on it, and you can look this stuff up, dude." I go, "Listen, nothing personal, but I have to move on with my life now."
Yeah.
I didn't say like I was insinuating like we're not going to be friends. I don't want to be your friend. This is business.
No.
We all know.
Yeah.
So fine. I'm sorry, that was quite a big setup, but this had to be.
Yeah.
So fast forward to October 24th of 2020. That was December of 2018. And I mean, I have friends that still live there. I still talk to here and there, and so I keep in contact with my old neighbors. So yesterday morning, I was laying in bed, and I was just getting about 8 o'clock in the morning. I was just kind of waking up, and I'm like, okay, I got all these things I'm going to do. We had a party we're having last night, like I mentioned to you guys earlier, and but I got plenty of time, no problem. This is cool. So I looked at my phone, and a friend of mine tagged me in some post on Facebook. I'm like, well, what's that? And I look, and it's another friend of ours who lives lives in the same condo community, and she's like, "I've been up all night. One of the neighbors went crazy, and there's been a shooting and explosions." And I'm like, "What?" And I look at the picture, and I'm like, wow. So I call my friend up, and I'm like, "Sarah, is that my old house that's on fire?" And she's like, "Yeah."
Wow.
I'm like, "Oh my God." And so I don't know why I did it, but I just grabbed a coffee and jumped in the car and shot over there because I had a lot of friends there. I wanted to make sure they were okay,
Yeah.
So I got over there, and there was a guy that pulled up next to me when I pulled up in a parking spot, and there was cop cars everywhere, fire trucks, SWAT trucks. Everything was taped off, of course. The guy that got out next to me, we were talking for a minute because, of course, I get out and I say, "What the F?" Like, what the heck's going on here? And he's like, "Yeah, because the way this building was set up that I lived in, and when I owned the place, it was a big unit that was mine, and there was 3 studios on the other side of the building, like on the other side."
Yeah.
So this gentleman that pulled up next to me, I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I don't know, but I live there. I can't get in the building. I live in that building." I'm like, "Well, I sold it. I used to live in that building. I sold it to this guy." He's like, "Though that guy." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "The one that's dead on the ground over there." And I look over there, and there he is, covered up, of course. I'm like, "Oh my God!" Right? So this guy goes on to start explaining to me that he's like, "Yeah, this was Saturday morning, right? yesterday morning. Friday night, this gentleman was in his little studio unit, and the guy that bought my condo, uh, this guy just heard a commotion in the hallway. So he looks out, and this guy, let's just call him Mark, because I keep the guy that bought my condo. Let's just call him Mark.
Mark,
right?
yeah.
Um, he he's throwing furniture in the hallway, just throwing random stuff, furniture, belongings out in the hallway. So this guy, the neighbor, he's like, what are you doing? You can't do that, man. What? And the guy flipped out. I started cussing him out, screaming at him and stuff or whatever. So he ran back in his unit, and he's like, and he goes on to tell me, he's like, so yeah, I'm looking out the peephole now, wondering what's going to happen next. And he brings a mirror out, a regular old mirror, and puts it against the door of the condo and smashes his head into it, breaks the glass off.
Holy crap!
The guy's like, that's when I called the cops. This was the guy that called the cops and started this thing. He's like, I called the cops. I looked out the peephole to see when he was going to walk back in his unit, and he's like, I got the hell out of there. I ran, got my keys, got my wallet, got my phone, and got the hell. He's like, I slept in a parking lot last night. He's like, he's like, I wasn't going to be near this thing, which I didn't blame. Because if he'd have been stuck in the building with this thing, because you'll hear why in a minute. So, I walked around I was trying to find my one friend, and I think she fell asleep for a while because she wasn't answering her door. So I walked around the other side and, just see how much damage there was to my old house. And, of course, I bumped into a bunch of people, a bunch of old neighbors and stuff. So it turned into a family reunion of sorts. And the cops actually came up to me, and they were like, what's your business here, to a certain, which I was like, I flat out said, I'm like, what, guys, I have no business here. I really don't have any business here. I don't know why I'm here right now. I just wanted to come and make sure my friends were okay. I go, but I sold this place to that guy. That's the guy, and they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, and I go, so whatever information I can give you guys with that, I'll be happy to help. But really, I don't have any. They're like, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're not hurting anybody. You can stay here as long as you want. So, of course, the news came, and they walked right up to me. They're like, well, could we talk to you? I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to you people. Get out of my face. Of course, my old neighbor went and did an interview. So if you want, it's actually on the news site. I was standing like 5-10 foot away from the guy when they were interviewing. But I'm like, I don't want to talk to you guys. So but it was, a bit of a reunion of sorts, but I just walked around there. And then I saw some other people that I want to make sure were okay too. So I checked it on them, and, of course, I got the whole story from these people, but this went on for 10 hours, like 9 or 10 hours. It went on all night long. And the guy basically, it started that, like I mentioned, the other guy called the cops, and that's when he was already started firing shots and started shooting a gun randomly, out of his windows and stuff. So the cops showed up. And basically the story I got was there was a standoff, as I said, and he basically was screaming out the windows like, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's also playing Nirvana, I guess. That one of my neighbors like, yeah, he kept playing Nirvana songs out the window.
Jeez.
Like, okay. That's like classic angst right there. So, but my other neighbor, one of my old neighbors, I was talking with her, and she's like, yeah, for the last few months, he's been scaring the hell out of people. He's been walking around here with black makeup on his face, like red eyes, I guess.
Really?
And he would just walk around with a radio in his hand, blaring music all the time, just scaring the crap out of people, right?
Wow.
And people a lot of people I talked to, like, we tried talking to him. We tried to get him help. We tried helping the guy out, but he wouldn't listen to anybody. So the SWAT team actually took over what my friend Denise I went to see and make sure. They actually had to take over her condo because it was right across the way from my condo. So she's like, yeah, the SWAT team took over my condo for the whole night and protected me. They made sure I was okay. She was an old lady, she was scared, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she told me she saw the whole thing go down when it finally ended, because basically he lit a fire in the condo. He set the place on fire, and he had gas cans in there. So there was an explosion. blew out the windows. That didn't kill him though. This is a second-story condo, right? Like I said, it's a glorified apartment, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He kicked out the window in the bedroom and jumped out and fell one story on his head. This is what Denise, my old neighbor, told me. He fell on it. Now, I should mention also, this guy was doing drugs, from what I understand too. He had a problem with meth. He was doing substance issues, and I know what meth. There's what the term meth muscle, basically.
Yeah.
You don't feel any pain. Because when she said that to me, I'm like, well, that had to have killed him. If he fell on his head, a whole story. And she's like, no, he got up with the gun in his hand and started firing at the cops. The cops are sitting there going, put the gun down, put the gun down, put the gun down. And he wouldn't put the gun, say that they blew him away.
That was it.
They shot by snipers, by cops on the ground. I mean, they unloaded on the guy. I mean, look, I'm sorry. I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to hear this or whatever and say, oh man, the cops, they just killed the guy. I'm like, no, they gave the guy 10 hours. They tried to talk the guy down. They brought his family there to try to talk him down. They were on the bullhorns. My friend Denise just kept saying over and over again, like, all I kept hearing was, come on, man, come on out. We'll get you some help. We'll get you the help you need.
Yeah.
You got to put the gun down. You got to calm down, dude. They tried. They gave it everything they could, I should say, to help this guy. And he fired at him. And what choice do these men and women have, right?
Exactly.
So they had to kill the guy. And yeah, and I stood there just looking at my condo that I lived in for 8 years. I lived there and I owned it for 15. And as I said, I had a lot of firsts in that place. That's kind of it's kind of an emotional thing on that standpoint, because even though I had no skin in this game anymore, it's not my place anymore. I sold it, right? But I had a lot of great firsts there. And that's what I'll go back to that. We produced Ghostly Talk from there for a number of years.
The Haunted Winery.
Yeah, that was the Haunted Winery.
The Haunted Winery.
We moved it out of the Haunted Basement Studios.
Yeah.
Into what we called the Haunted Winery, which was basically my condo.
Yeah.
And the spare bedroom, because I live by myself, so the spare bedroom basically got turned into the studio. It was dedicated to the studio, plushed out, and we did a lot of work on it to make it real nice. And we did the show from there for years.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I thought about today. I'm like, that we spent a lot of time there, me and Doug and Bonnie and Amber and everybody. Tom Mott, our old buddy Tom, who passed away. We all did a lot of work in that condo and made a lot of magic happen in that condo, right?
Yeah.
So it was sad to see that.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
And on a more superficial note, like, I was standing there with my old neighbors, and I'm like, those were beautiful windows I put in there. Windows I put in this point, and they're gone. Oh, it's such a heartbreaker. I remember the guy who bought it from, who's no longer with us, unfortunately now. When I sold the place, I gave him all the paperwork for those windows and said, I transferred the warranty over into your name. So you're good to go with this thing. If you have a problem, you're taken care of. But those are great windows. They were custom made windows I had for the place. So just to see them just blown out, glass everywhere, and bullet shells all over the place, and just seeing the body there. I mean, it just, whoa. It was just, so yeah, yesterday was kind of interesting.
I'd say so.
Yeah, and it's definitely in the realm of weird. That's why I mentioned to you earlier today. I'm like, well, if you guys want to talk about this, this is a hell of a story.
Yeah, that is.
It's not a great story either. It's a sad story, because I really do feel bad for that guy. He needed help. He needed help. And I don't know. I don't know. It's just he didn't have to die, but I think he wanted to die though too.
And that's the thing when you're dealing with mental illness, right? I mean, it's a tricky situation. It's a slippery slope, It's how do you handle it? I mean, everybody's different, and not every approach works for every other person. It's
everybody's
hard.
different. We're all wired differently, and I mentioned all that other stuff because when I heard this yesterday, of course I was gutted. but I wasn't all that surprised though, because I knew the guy. I could tell when I met him just under 2 years ago that he was eccentric. I don't like using the word crazy. I don't think he was crazy. He was eccentric. There was something different going on there, and he obviously had some issues that he couldn't work out. And I guess he thought the only way to solve this was to do what he did, unfortunately. And thankfully, no one else got hurt. Really, none of it. I talked to the cops, especially, and I asked him flat out. I go, "Are you guys okay? Did anybody get there?" He's like, "Nobody got hurt. Everybody's okay." I'm like, "Well, that's a real relief to hear that." And none of my neighbors got hurt. Nobody over there got hurt. So that's a real relief out of the whole thing. But everybody is scared half to death now.
Yeah.
No one slept.
Yeah. And I mean, that's obviously that was their main concern, to make sure everyone else was okay, that this guy wasn't going to put anyone else in harm,
Yeah.
This guy, yeah, did he want to die? He was harming himself. I mean, what was to stop him from not harming somebody else and, firing and everything else? They had to make a decision, unfortunately.
Yeah, they did. That's why, I mean, anybody I've told this to, I'm like, those cops did everything they could. The police did everything they could to save that man's life and get him somewhere safe where he could get the help he obviously needed, and he didn't want to work with him.
No.
And I, when it comes to that, well, there's not much we can do for you. But if you're going to aim a gun, I mean, I'm sorry. You don't aim a gun at people who are not cops. Why would you aim a gun at a person who is a cop? I mean, you don't do that. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
So I'm just personally, I'm still trying to I'm still processing the thing. I've actually been on the phone with a lot of people today from, like my realtor. My realtor called me, the lady who I worked with on that, and she literally, when I answered the phone, she literally was like, "Is that our guy?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh my God," and she ended up, just another thing with this story. The guy who bought my condo, Mark, he, a year, like that would have been December of 2019. He actually was trying to sell the place.
Oh, really?
I'm like, well, he must have not liked it. Whatever,
A year later, yeah.
He kept blowing up my realtor's phone, who I still work with.
Yeah.
And she was telling me today. She said, he would just call me all the time, asking just ridiculous, weird, random questions. And she's like, he would call every time he called me. His number would be different too. He'd call from a different number. He never had a consistent phone number. And I guess what scared her was, she said one day he called me and asked me to come over and clean his condo for him. And
what?
She's like, that's when I said, then this whole COVID thing started up too, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I am not going to be involved. There's something going on here, and this scares me. So she told me, I just heard about that a couple hours ago. So there's a lot of things I'm learning about this situation, even though that's the funny thing, is it's got nothing to really do with me. But like I said, I lived at that place for all those years. So, you're naturally interested, so yeah,
Scott,
yeah.
Is it the apartment that did not want to let you go?
Or did you conjure up something there while you were there?
Yeah. Did you possibly conjure something up during one of those shows?
Over the years of doing ghostly talk from there, we had, a lot of people come through there, either on the phone or in the studio, whatever it was. And we were told several times that a couple of from different people. This is what makes this interesting. These were independent people that didn't know each other, right? Yeah. And they all said that there was an energy in the closet in the master bedroom.
Oh.
My bedroom. They said there's something one person said it was a little boy, and a couple other people basically said it was like an energy source they were detecting. They could feel something in there. And Amber said she saw a couple things. We saw we both had to experience this, like laying in the bedroom on the bed. I looked, the doorway, of course, and it goes out to the living room and stuff. Like we both thought we saw somebody walk past the door into the bathroom. Nothing major, but we did notice a few things. I had a couple of strange, just very strange feelings sleeping there a few times. Some very strange dreams I had that I'd never have had since then. So I don't know. This is an old building, so who knows what may have happened there even before I bought the place, right?
Exactly.
So, and maybe, the sky's the limit now. We'll never know what really went wrong with this guy.
Was that even a thought in your head though when all that went down and you heard about this guy doing this, or well, you pretty much see it? Well, didn't see it, but was that something going through your head that, wow, could it have been something about the apartment?
I don't know. Well, as far as what your question was, I started thinking about it today a little bit.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about it yesterday. I was more just like processing this thing, and that's all I was doing yesterday. Today I was thinking about things like that. Is it some possession or so? I'm not willing to really jump on that bandwagon yet. Guy clearly was disturbed.
Yeah, the guy obviously had some issues beforehand, but God,
could it be something that
insane.
Kind of pushed him over the edge, since he already had something potentially wrong with his mind? Maybe whatever was in the condo itself kind of pushed him over.
That could very well be. Unfortunately, again, we'll never know. But
never know.
It wasn't something that when I talked to the neighbors yesterday, like I said, their main thing was he was doing other, the neighbor that called the cops on him. He said, yeah, the guy, he taped a bullet to my door also that same night. I forgot to mention that part. He taped a bullet to the door and he wrote on a notepad, said 1 shot, 1 kill on there. So that's, the guy, obviously, as I already said, he got the hell out of Dodge quick. He got out of there because he knew something was going to happen, right? So I don't. He like we've established that he was disturbed, obviously, but yeah, I'm not. I'm open-minded enough to think that maybe something there could have. I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now too. And you hear it a million times, but we have to face reality here. COVID. It's another thing that's putting a lot of stress and tension on people and creating situations that wouldn't normally be there.
Well, the COVID thing, obviously the election that's going on right now. It's got a lot of people doing a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
people are thinking they are, and this isn't the only thing that's happened recently. There's other people that have been doing, just other people flying off the rails and doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So, a good example of how it affects. This is just one way to look at this, because I mentioned before, the band I play in, we rehearse at a warehouse in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
And obviously we haven't been playing very much lately, and it's just been a matter of logistics and stuff like that. But this last week, we all talked about getting together, and like, oh no, we can't do it. I'm like, well, okay, guys, I tell you what, we're not going to be getting together then. At least I'm not going to be getting together with you guys until after the election, because I don't know what's going to, and I may sound Mr. Paranoid here, but there's been a lot of violence, especially in Detroit recently. Especially over politics, basically.
Yeah.
We know all the story with that. And I'm like, look, I got a lot of equipment down here, so I'm bringing it home until after this election thing happens, because I don't know what's going to frankly happen. And nobody argued with me. Nobody said that's stupid, man. They're like, no, we totally get it. So
because you never know what'll happen, man.
You never know. What could happen, and I don't want to lose all my equipment like that.
No.
I mean, if I can prevent it, I might as well prevent it. So that's just something I'm doing as a reaction to this thing. It's not obviously not an extreme reaction. It's a very logical reaction to something. But people are doing a lot of crazy stuff right now. And COVID thing, like you said, and this election coming up, those two things right now are the hinge pins on this stuff. It's driving people nuts. I don't think we're at a point now as people where, I mean, everything's so polarized now as far as opinions.
Yeah.
And, like I've mentioned this earlier, there's a lot of people I've talked to on Ghostly Talk, and I'm sure you guys have talked to also, that you didn't agree with. You didn't agree with their idea, right? But that's okay, especially when it comes to studying the paranormal and the weird, because what do we all really know anyways?
Yeah.
This is not the arena to debate in.
No.
As far as the paranormal is concerned, I'll never understand people debating in the paranormal, because I've seen people do that, and I'm like, what are you debating over? Either you know shit. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's there's that's a big problem we have now as a group of people, as a society. It's gotten scary to have an opinion, I think. Yeah. Social media obviously has not helped this at all.
No.
Social media really, to me, is a failed experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago. There's an actual, Amber mentioned something earlier that I found interesting, that people are actually working towards bringing back the message board again. Like, remember the forums? Every website forums back in the day.
Yep.
People are working on things to bring that back again, because they're like, social media is basically a big message board too, right? But as we all know, it's really bad. It's really ugly.
It's terrible. Every format, there's always something going on. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So,
social media, I think, has amplified a lot of this mania.
Oh yeah.
Obviously through disinformation, and people just being able to say whatever shitbag thing they want to say to people and not really have to deal with the repercussions of that, right? And we all know about keyboard warriors. I don't need to go into that stuff, but that whole idea it's still alive and well, unfortunately. So it's a scary landscape right now, I think.
It is.
And if I can do something to protect my property, I will, which I brought my equipment home.
Yeah.
But people are flying off the rails. This is not the only thing that's happened recently. Obviously, this one hit very close to home for me. It doesn't affect me at all, but it obviously hit close to home.
Yeah.
There's been a handful of shootings. There's been lots of shootings around here. People are getting uptight, and I won't say I'm not a little nervous about election night, or maybe the day or two after.
Yeah.
So people are, and you know what? I'm going to point this out too about the situation we just talked about with this condo thing. I will say this: the guy that who died, he was an Uber driver. That's what he did for a living.
Yeah.
So what company has taken a real beating? Thing, right?
Yeah.
So that may be another component in this whole thing. Is this guy probably was out of work too? Right.
Yeah. That's what I mean. There's so many people out there that are out of work, and I know up here, Scott, and I don't know what it's like down there, but up here they're called CERB checks, and basically it's just an assistance check, right? Helping people out that are like unemployed, or they're out of work right now. The business is shut down or whatever, just to help them out get by from month to month for a little while. Yeah. And it's, I mean, how long is it before that shit runs out? I mean, it's only a matter of time.
That we have unemployment benefits here. They call them unemployment benefits. And we have these stimulus checks that are happening.
This is akin to a stimulus check.
I'm not able.
Yeah.
It's an emergency relief fund that the government set up because of this COVID thing. For people who lost jobs and whatnot, they would basically give them a certain amount a month until until a certain time.
Yeah. No, I think the one thing we've been saying on Ghostly Talk for a while, what Amber and I were trying to impress upon people when this whole COVID thing started was, not all of us are in that bad a shape. We mentioned this earlier, like I know I consider myself a very blessed person because, I haven't had a problem with my employment, right? Consider myself very blessed, on that standpoint. But we said to a lot of people, that's what we would say. We were saying this for a while on the show, like, we know that this is tough for some people, but this is a good time to actually have some introspection and reflect on things. Take some time to yourself now, because dude, it was such a weird feeling with this COVID thing when it happened, because literally before that, I was on high gear nonstop every day, work, gym, recording, band practice, podcast, just one thing after another. There was always something going on all day long. And this thing hits just like overnight, literally overnight.
Yeah.
Everything just stopped. I mean, still working, but from the house. And it just stopped. That's just the, I don't know. So that's what I was like. Well, the thing I looked at about that, like my idea was, well, I'm going to take advantage of this and, relax a little bit and have some introspection and take some time to myself and think about things. Right.
Yeah.
And so we've been trying to tell people for a while was just, take this opportunity we have as a society. We're getting a reboot here. We're getting a free reboot here. But I also understand too that it's hard to do that when you're trying to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And you can't go to work now because you got to go to work, right? If you want to make money. So I understand that it's not quite as easy when you're in that position. But I hope that some people have done that during this time. But however, as we've already said, you have the mania being created by COVID, and then this election coming up that's been nothing but a shit show for the last year, literally. And I'm not surprised that people are flying off the rails like they are. And it makes me nervous still. It still makes me nervous. And I'm nervously waiting for election day. I do at the same time think a lot higher of people than that. And I think just like, Y2K and stuff like that, we thought that was going to be the apocalypse, and ended up being a pretty rad day. If I remember, it was a pretty fun day. The computers didn't break.
Everyone was waiting for that. Yeah.
Fine. It was cool. And I'm kind of thinking about this the same way, like that same thing. Like, I'm hoping we go into this thing with the same attitude. Like, really, at the end of the day, we're all just people here, and whatever person gets put in that position, they're going to do it just as lousy of a job as the guy who did it before. So it don't matter who it is. I hope people just realize that, and we don't have any. There's been enough of the rioting this year. It's sad to see that. To me, it is.
It's been crazy. It's been crazy.
And whatever side you're on, it don't matter what side you're on. If you're behaving like an idiot, dude, then you're just being an idiot. I don't care what you stand for.
Yeah.
Burning a person's building down. I was at a few months ago. You see, the stuff that just pissed me off was just things like I know in Minneapolis, for example, you want to rate a Target, go ahead and rate a Target. They're going to laugh all the way to the bank on that. They write that off and they restock that store and they go back at it again.
Yep.
It's easy for them. It's the guy. It's the guy who has owned a bar for 50 years on his own, who has a business, and you burned his business down. That you're just a jerk off for doing that. Why would you destroy a person's business like that? And if you think he's going to set up shop again in that town, no, it's not going to happen.
Can't.
Right?
No,
you can't. If I was that person, and they said, "Well, yeah, we'll give you a grant and help you out to rebuild your business again,"
wouldn't be there.
I can have some of the people that are responsible for this coming here and patronize this place. I don't want to look at these people. This is very personal on my standpoint. I'm being very personal, I think, but But that's the stuff that I saw, and I'm like, okay, this is wrong. I don't care what side you're on. This is ridiculous, you know.
It
So,
is, yeah.
but I think the bottom line just is that, like, I just hope people are, you know, and it's like I'm anybody, but it's just my hope is that people really do kind of pull it together here in a week or two and say, you know, okay, my guy didn't win. Well, life goes on, right?
You like to hope that happens, man.
So
You like
what
to
day is
hope
the
that.
election on?
Was it the second? Well, yeah, I think it's November 2nd, which is
Yeah,
a
November
Tuesday.
2nd, I think. Yeah,
November
November
2nd.
2nd. Yeah. Yeah, well, because I mean, I mean, obviously, we watch closely as well, because I mean, it does affect us as well. I mean,
Yeah,
relations
yeah,
between the kids,
yeah.
and I mean, it's just been insane the way things have been over the past 4 years. But border wise, I mean, you look at a lot of the states that are along the border and how much they've suffered.
Mhm.
Uh, the last little while, and it's really too bad on both sides. I want to get back over there for quite a lot. I miss going back down there, man. I really do. This is I'm always down there this time of the year. I spend a couple weeks. Times we'll go over to Michigan and up to Frankenmuth, and sometimes over into just down there in Western New York. Whatever, man. I love it in both places. And that's why I
Well,
keep telling.
we all that is the bummer of 2022 is that all the fun stuff just didn't happen. I know
Yeah,
I do a lot of traveling also, and I go to a lot of, you know, metal festivals and stuff like
yeah,
that. And those are my little vacations I take, and we go and we let loose and have a great time and watch bands play, and none of that happened this year. It all just fell apart,
yeah,
and it was just that was sad because we that's like my thing. Like that's what I work for is to
yeah,
go do that stuff. And that if there's any tragedy of 2020 for me at least, besides this weekend, um,
yeah,
was the fact that I just, you know, all the great stuff that I like to do and I live to do just couldn't happen. You know, and that's just me. It's just selfishness, I know, but that's just how I feel. I understand there's a greater thing too. Like, yeah, I was of course bummed that I couldn't go to the Maryland Death Fest in Baltimore, Maryland this year, but I also know that we are dealing with a pandemic, and there's still people out there that think that this is all fake, and boy, they are wrong because this has hit home for me a couple of times already. I have
yeah,
friends that have lost parents as a
yeah,
result of the COVID. It's killed them.
yeah,
That's firsthand, right?
yeah.
It's a real thing.
Same
So,
here.
I mean, I'm bummed about not doing personally, not being able to have my fun that I like to have, but I also know that this is a very real thing, and it's a problem that needs to be solved. And part of the solution is for people to chill the hell out, you know,
Yeah.
and just and stop. I get it. You got to live your life. I get that too. I still have to go do things also.
We all want to
Um,
live our lives, man. We all do, but we have to make that sacrifice right now to make things better. If we don't
exactly.
make that personal sacrifice,
Yeah.
things will never get better.
Exactly. And that's the big picture here. And personally, I think, you know, we all got to think that way is the
Yeah.
big picture. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry you can't go to your bar you like to go to. Well, the way it's going to be for a little while here, you know. To me, it's an adventure, you know, to a certain degree. I try to look at things like a little bit more positive, I guess, where it's like, well, this is something different to do. You know, and I keep saying to my coworkers and stuff, I'm like, okay, so we bust our asses all week here to pay for these houses that we own, and we don't ever stay in them. We're barely ever at them. I go, now we got an opportunity to be here all the time, and
Yeah.
I know that that can get tedious too. Like you got to get out of the house and move around a little bit.
Yeah.
But I like my house. I bought it because I liked it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like being in it. I like being in the house and hanging out here. So while I have to get out and get my fresh air and, you know, go running or ride my bike or do whatever it is. Um, you know, I like being home, and I've been home here all year. And I
Yeah.
can't say I haven't enjoyed it to a certain degree, just being at home and being with Amber all the time and being with the cat and stuff like that. That's all good stuff. That's the
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff that you normally that's what you're yearning for, I think, when you're stuck at work all day long. You know, like I'd like to
I
be
just
home.
want to go home. I don't want to be here.
So okay, you know, and again, I mean, I'm coming from my standpoint, which, yeah, as I said already, I consider myself pretty damn blessed when it comes with this stuff as far as
Yeah.
employment's concerned. Some people don't have that luxury. I
No,
get that.
no, there's a
So,
lot of people that don't have that. And like you, I've been pretty lucky throughout this pandemic. I've been able to work, and thankfully, able to have a vacation. Well, not really a vacation, but some time off from. It's just been insane since this thing just collapsed, if you will, with the COVID. But it's nice to have a few weeks off and just step back for a little bit, refresh, and just move on. It's been crazy. It's been insane.
it has been. This has been 2020 is without a doubt been the craziest thing I've ever seen. All around.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, and this weekend did not help that.
No, it was just another one in there, right?
Yeah,
Another
I'm like,
notch.
yeah, just what's going to happen next, But this has been a very unique year,
Yeah.
I think,
Oh yeah.
a lot of people. And,
Well, Scott,
Mhm.
get out. Like, okay, so we didn't mention the name of the band. Get the information out about your band and whatever ghostly talk stuff. Get that stuff out for the listeners and the viewers and whatever else.
Oh yeah, Ghostly Talk, of course, is at ghostlytalk.com. As we said before, that's so you can go there and like I said before, you can download all the archives for free. It's all there for free. It'll always be there for free. Yeah, I do play in my band too. Not too much this year, but the band's called Thousand Yard Stare, and you can find us at thousandyardstare.net, and that's a portal site that takes you to all the, like the Spotify and Bandcamp and all that stuff where you can listen to the music and stuff that we do and whatnot, which is it's pretty abrasive, so it's an acquired taste. Not everybody will like it, but yeah, we're called Thousand Yard Stare. We're a Detroit band. It's really heavy stuff. I guess I don't know. It's hard to explain that stuff without stuff.
I don't know. It sounds good to me.
It's ugly. It's ugly music, man. It's not pretty. We put a lot of work into that stuff. We got a whole new thing we're wanting to do. Because we did get together about 2 or 3 months ago here on my property and hung out for a while and burned some wood and talked and we were like, are we still a band? And they're like, well, what are we gonna do? I'm like, well, we can't play shows, so let's write a new record. Let's do it. So we kind of have a whole thing laid out, like the plans for it, and ideas and things that we want to do, and but we have to get together and start actually doing it, which is going to be a challenge right now. So, but yeah, it's fun to do that. But yeah, thousandyardstare.net. That's the website for that. And yeah, that's pretty much all we do these days. That's all I have the energy to do anymore. I'm wiped out. It's fun. I'm glad we're doing Ghostly Talk again, though. Too. I mean, I'm glad we brought it back, and I'm really proud of it. Still, I've always been about any venture I've ever been a part of, as far as being creative or some type of artistic thing. Ghostly Talk has always been my number one thing. It's been the thing I've always been the proudest of. I've always been really, really honored to have been a part of that thing and kind of have the reins of it now. It's kind of my baby now that I work with obviously with Doug in the background, literally there in spirit. But yeah, I've always been very proud of Ghostly Talk, and I'll always be proud of Ghostly Talk. I think it's been a great thing for a lot of people. I hope people have been what it is,
I for one, it's been I'm glad you guys brought it back, and like I said, I met a lot of good people, a lot of great people, and I continue to be friends with a lot of good people because of your show.
I mentioned that before too. I that show was a vehicle for a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
We did a lot of great traveling as a result of Ghostly Talk. We met amazing people that we're still friends with to this day as a result of Ghostly Talk. I don't know how the hell we got to talk to Dee Snider because of Ghostly Talk. Those are some weird interviews we got to do, but these people were great to us. They were, we got to talk to some really, really amazing people that, like a guy like Dee Snider for me.
And I totally forgot about that too.
Yeah. Easy interview too. Basically all we had to do was say hi, Dee, and he just went off for like a half an hour, and we didn't have to say but he was an American hero to me. He still is an American hero. So it's an honor and that was because of Ghostly. It was a vehicle for that, for us to do. So I couldn't be more proud of what we've done and what we're going to keep doing, in the future here too. So it's been a great ride, and it's going to keep being a great ride, I think.
Well, Scott, I want to thank you for coming on, man. It was a blast and great to have you back on, man.
Yeah, we hadn't talked too much paranormal. Well, we talked about weird stuff.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, weird stuff.
I hope people kind of could enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, anytime you guys want to talk, please reach out. I'd love to come back and talk to you guys anytime you want.
Oh man, we'd love that. We'd love to have you back on. You know that.
Oh yeah, cool, man. And we're buddies too. We're all on Untapped and all on Facebook. We always keep in contact, man.
Awesome. Cool. Take care, Scott.
Everybody, and thank you. Thanks, Alex, too. Thanks for having me. And you guys have a great night.
Is Alex still there? Oh yeah,
I'm still here.
Oh God. All right. Take care, Scott.
Have a good night, Scott.
Be safe.
Stay safe, bud.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Awesome, man. I mean, great guy. Like I said, I've listened to the show since 2004, I guess.
And check out his band.
Yeah, band is really cool. I really enjoy it. It's like you said, it's not everyone's taste, but that's the way music is, though, right? I mean, there's shit out there that not everybody likes, but you're the I love it, but I think you'd like it, Alex. You'd probably like it.
Probably. It sounds like I will, yeah.
Yeah, so great to have him on. If you have never listened to Ghostly Talk, check it out, man. Listen to the archives. A lot of the guests that have been on this show have been on that show. Like I could name a whole Keith Age and Pat Fitzhugh.
Mm-hmm.
Laura Moon and Becky Ray. There's just so many people that we've had on the show here. They were on that show years ago, and in fact, a lot of those people I became friends with because of that show. And I mean, I was doing a little bit of producing for Laura Moon and her radio show before I got this show going. I was doing guest scheduling and all sorts of stuff for her show. But that's the way it goes. I mean, that's if you listen to the show, you'll get what we kind of mean by listening to it. It sounds like you're just sitting on the couch and enjoying the conversation that they're having together. It's just like it's so grassroots. In the beginning, they never really lost it, but I mean, more and more they brought guests on. And like Scott had mentioned, near the end, a lot of these guests that were coming on, it was all about the books, all about this, all about my movie, whatever. And it gets tiresome.
Yep. I can imagine.
If you don't pump their book or whatever enough times during the show, it's just ridiculous. We've dealt with that on this show.
Oh yeah,
and just really don't want to deal with it. We'd love to have people on to talk about their books or whatever else, but I mean, look, there's more. We've always been raw about this, right? We've always been let's see where the conversation flows, and we want that perspective, and I mean, yeah, there's the odd guest that we kind of give special permission or leeway, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Those big time guests that we never have on the show. No,
that's right.
Yeah. Anyways, that's it. Next week, who do we have on, man?
We have Emilia and Michelle from Outer Realm.
You remember now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're on. Good to have those guys back. We were rescheduled. They were supposed to be on a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, couldn't do the show, but they're coming on next Sunday night. So it'd be good to have those guys on. And what else? I mean, we have
And
Amelia, and then we've got another show that's coming up later on in November.
yeah.
We'll talk about that after the next show. Well, until next Sunday night, thank you for tuning in and watching us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, however you're watching us. Thank you for the support.
Yeah.
And
Don't
we'll see
forget
you
to
next
subscribe and click the like button.
Please subscribe to our channel. Like I said, I haven't really had a chance to get some more archived shows up, but I need to, and I need to get Fred Anderson's show up.
Yeah.
I got to get that show edited and put up there for Fred, because I know Fred's been asking about an archive for that. So
It's on YouTube.
Well. Is it on YouTube?
Did we not do it on YouTube?
No, we didn't, because we had technical issues, remember?
Okay, yeah.
Right? So we couldn't do that. So I'll get the audio edited and down and uploaded to the YouTube channel. Until next Sunday, guys, thank you for tuning in and watching us on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, follow us on Facebook or whatever to keep up to date as to what's happening up in the future with guests and stuff like that. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.